Hey everybody, this is Anna. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips. And we have our co-host, Quindy, who runs the show. Spooky Quindy. And her, I'm going to call them disembodied minions. That's probably better than undead. Like, we know they're disembodied, but we don't necessarily know that they're undead. So yeah, disembodied minions. Oh, it's morning. And hello everyone. Hello, 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 hello. Yes, it's Necromancer Day. Yes, it's spooky you. Yes, my intro was a little bit rocky this morning. That's because I'm a little bit rocky this morning, so we're good. We're good. I hate it when I don't get to... Oh, no! And, of course, I forgot my palette. 1 second. 1 second. Need to get palette. Ah, these days. How to get palette pop? And while I'm up, I'm getting green stuff because we might start base stuff today. Yes, Necromancer is better than a Necropancer for sure. There we are. I mean, a Necropancer would just be like a dead thing wandering around pantsing people, and that would kind of just be like weird. Just weird. Kind of weird. Obviously, you need more coffee, Crowley. Hello, 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 hello. So far, the papa is good today. We will see. Oh, she was a terror this morning for David, though. David's like, she likes you better again because she's been really on him lately. The Keekster. Well, that and she runs right to me in the morning. Like, when we get up, she comes out of her crate, and instead of stopping and jumping up on David, she comes right to me and wants pettins. So, like, I've stolen the dog back, apparently. This irks David. Hello. Hello, Julie and Bob. All right. So really, I just need to do a little bit of NMM and the sword there, and then we're on to the base, guys. We're on to the base. So, and the NMM is very tiny, so I don't need a whole lot, although I do need to get the sword or the dagger. There's a couple of places to get there, and I need to decide what color that is. Maybe I'll do it orange like his eyes. I don't know, though. That makes the orange a true accent color, and then I need to repeat it somewhere else. Let's put the gold in first, because the gold and the orange are going to be kind of similar-ish, so maybe that will work after all. Let me get my thing out of here and get this here. Alrighty. Well, you can. People just don't like you for it. Beating a dead horse, that is. So let's do some quick num-nums. And since these parts are so tiny, we really don't need the full, like, regalia of, oh, did I put that in the wrong place? I did put that in the wrong place. 1 second. Reorganizing paint. Putting paint in the wrong place. Must put it in right place or we'll never find it again. All right. So yeah, so you don't need to do like the full scope of NMM colors, like all 5 colors, to do tiny bits like the bit at the throat and the bit at the belt and the hilt of the dagger. You really only need 3 colors, I'd say. So I'm going to start with a bit of rich leather with a little bit of russet brown in it, if I can find my russet brown, which is hiding over here. Hey, Shadow Raven, are you here? I think you were the one who said try the Liquitex acrylic or metallics. And I got some. Olive coffee. We do not have a Shadow Raven. Oh, that's right. Or did Shadow Raven say they were going to be not here? I don't remember. Anyway, I played with one of them last night. The fluid acrylic metallics from Golden. Oh, it's fine. If they are not here, it's fine. Do. Yeah, it's fine. No, really, I haven't tried the stainless steel flake silver yet. I got a pack of 4 because they sell a gold, copper, pearl, and silver. So I thought, all right. And very, very evident that the gold is exactly the same gold that Reaper uses. But the gold is interesting because at least the straight up gold is very much a metal medium. It doesn't have any pigment in it. It's only flake, which for other people would be irritating because no coverage. But for me, it just lets me mix my own metallics. So I'm like, rock on. That sounds fantastic. The silver looks pretty smooth. I just haven't tried it yet. All right, so let's see here. We're going to mix up a lighter color. So I'm going to do essentially an abbreviated version of what I usually do for NMM for very small things. I'm going to make a dark-ish color and a light to medium-ish color and then a very light color. And that'll let me kind of just lay down something, pop one highlight, and then pop the white highlight on it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of water in here. What day is it? It's the 26th. 6 days to NaNoWriMo. And I'm going to drop some white in here as well. After I mix up my white. There we go. Get our white up here. I'm going to lighten the other color just a little. There we are. And I think I'm going to need a little bit more white in there because it thinned. I didn't put all 4 full drops in there, so it's not going to be as powerful as I really need it to be for NMM highlighting. So let's pop that in there. Another drop. Chicory coffee, huh? What makes it, I mean, essentially, is it the same kind of thing? Like, it's caffeinated, it's just a different thing than coffee beans? Now I have to look it up. You can also use it mixed with traditional coffee. Interesting. I see. It's a New Orleans staple. It says it can cause issues with some people. Interesting. 1800s in France, huh? So it's been around a lot. Oh, it's caffeine free. Got it. That explains why people would mix it with traditional coffee if they wanted to say if they wanted a slightly caffeinated version. Well, right, but still, chicory coffee itself is caffeine, or chicory is caffeine free. But yeah, it's the coffee that adds the caffeine. Got it. Got it. So then, why would you use it as a less caffeinated alternative, or if you react to regular coffee? Yeah, I don't know. Some of this stuff is... Oh, interesting. Nice. Nice, Thormel. Ah, yeah, well, I was just talking about the, I think you recommended the golden metallics Shadow Ravens, so I ordered some, and I was just talking about the fact that their gold is pretty much a metal medium. It has 0 pigment in it, which is for many people frustrating, but for me, awesome. So that just means I can mix whatever metallic I want, which I think I mentioned briefly the other day on my own stream over on Saturday. So I'm going to use my shadow color to bring in color here first. We haven't had time to check out the silver with the stainless steel flake yet, because I'm actually working with gold right now on my Anubis, so I decided to check out the gold first. Otherwise, it's very, it's essentially the flake that Reaper uses. I can tell it's a mica-based flake for the golds. But I'm actually pretty thrilled if it's, and I'm just going to leave the shadow color as this, this is a necklace. And I could paint it bone, this little necklace thing, depending on if I wanted. Ah, I see, Quindy. Yeah, I always liked lots of sweetener and flavorings, so I guess chicory probably not for me. Which is a shame, kind of, because coffee, I react to coffee, and I don't, if chicory coffee didn't make me react, I could actually have it. All right, let's get some of this gold in here. Now these areas are so tiny, you pretty much just want to pick an area that you're going to highlight. In my case, I'm looking at these little rings here around the neck, and then there's the little wing things that come out, and I'm just focusing. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'd have to try some. The problem is I'd have to try some chicory coffee to know if I even liked it or if it worked well with me. But all right, boom, and I'm unlikely to. I guess I could probably find it somewhere around here. I haven't ever seen it in coffee shops around here though. I guess the Bay Area likes its traditional caffeine, which, considering we're surrounded by nerds here, makes sense. And I think the nerds do outnumber the health nuts, so pretty sure on that. Although there's some crossover. Right, try before buy. That's exactly my problem, Shadow Raven. So I'm going to take my my shadow color here, which is mostly rich leather. I'm going to add some white to it. This is a way to get kind of a coffee color, actually. Coffee with creamer in it, anyway. And I can bring that in to get the little neck kind of cord through the necklace. It's so small that it won't really read as a different color, but it is. If you have a K-cup machine, but I don't. We have an espresso maker. We're hardcore here because David indulged during the pandemic and has probably saved him hundreds of dollars, honestly, that he bought himself an espresso maker. And I'm just going to go gold with all this because it's also small. And there's no good way to really make it a different color. Oh, I am in the South Bay. Surrounded by nerds, which is pretty awesome, actually. The memes are constant. All right, I want to get these little chains down here, then I'll do this over here. And yeah, it is kind of resonating with the eye color, so I think I'll get away with this color. Huh. Boil your coffee grounds with an egg cracked into it. Weird. But why? But why? Why egg coffee? Like, why would you do that? Like, for one thing, it's a waste of a perfectly good egg, which I like to eat rather than boil with, coffee. And two, it might change the flavor. You'd get some calcium from the eggshells, I would think. Maybe a little bit, just trace amount. I don't know why you would do that to your poor coffee, to your poor eggs. Yeah, exactly, Quindy. But why? Exactly. Oh, it takes away the acidity because the egg and the... Probably, it's actually not the egg. It probably, the egg is just a waste, but the calcium carbonate in the eggshells would absorb some acid. But I don't think the egg would. Maybe I'm wrong there, though. I'm not a food chemist, but... But I would think it's the eggshell there that's absorbing the acidity, changing the pH. Because calcium does that. That's why Tums are mostly calcium carbonate. So, in my opinion, you are wasting an egg for the sake of an eggshell. You probably could just grind up some eggshells and eat your egg, and you would be fine with the egg coffee. But that probably sounds gross to most people. So that's probably why, also it sounds like a pain in the butt. Which it really isn't. I've ground up eggshells before, but... Yeah, eggshell. Yeah, see, that's it. That's it, Gibson. That's what I'm thinking. Is that maybe people suggested putting the whole egg in because it just makes it more appealing, and then you don't have to work as, it's not like you have to find an eggshell, right? Well, I have no doubt that it's actually a thing. But there are definitely things and recipes in the world that, like, don't make sense that you could, like, that are fashionable, but if you really removed a lot of it, you'd get the same effect. I had to get a little bit of black to correct my bad brushwork there, blorfing. It's all about the blorfs today. I'm just saying that the eggshell makes sense to me because calcium carbonate absolutely takes will counter acidity, which is why it's in Tums. But the egg itself does not make sense to me. Although it certainly I bet it flavors the coffee a little bit, and maybe they like that. Maybe you get accustomed to it. Yeah. Helps clarify the coffee, allowing the grounds to separate from the water. Egg white. Really? Enhances the caffeine. How? Okay, this sounds like... All right, I am... Okay, Google. Googs, I'm going to call you on this. There is no scientific way, no scientific reason why the egg white would extract the bitterness from the grounds that I know of. Yeah, eggshells make absolute scientific sense to me, but I'm gonna call them on that egg white statement. I think that's kind of bullhooey. I'm saying that's unless somebody can find a reason why protein, which is what egg whites are, pure protein pretty much, would extract bitterness. I'm gonna call them on that. I'm gonna say, Googs, you're out of it. I'm actually going to put a gold rim on this belt, I think. Yeah, exactly. So it's just hoodoo. Like, totally, totally. You know me. When it comes to chemistry, paint chem or not, and science in general, there's so many websites that, especially nutritional websites, I get into this, that are just spewing crap that they found on another web page, that those people found on another web page, that those people wrote down just because somebody told them that. You know, it's like you have to question the premise, guys. You have to. Like, in all of life, really, you've got to question the premise to get to what's right for you. I'm going to just put a quick little tiny gold border on this belt. Yeah, I believe, and now this is not, I don't have a citation here, you could look it up, but I had heard, because I've always had problems with coffee digestively, but I had heard that light roast was more acidic, that had more acid than a darker roast. Which seemed to be true as far as how my gut reacted to it, but I can't tell you why. So put a little gold around his belt and the wall. Yeah, I prefer to eat my eggs too, Quindy. God, I love eggs. Was just thinking I needed to make more hard-boiled eggs because I made deviled eggs while my family were here. And it just made me want more deviled eggs. I am going to, pardon me guys, again, my allergies. I put my window closed, like, so it's just open a crack, but it's still attacking me. It's just not attacking me as badly as yesterday. The allergies. And it's definitely early morning, like something when the sun hits and starts to warm the ground, something comes up into the air or the trees or something. Because by the end of the stream yesterday, I wasn't having any issues. But early in the stream, I'm definitely having issues. Oof. Come on, environment. Ah. Yeah, the weird thing about being out here is we actually have as many Pete's coffees as we have Starbucks. It's interesting. And then we have lots of local coffee shops. And I'm going to put a little bit of shadow over my gold. I wanted to do the lighter color first here because I wanted it to show up. Then I'll put the shadow over the top, which will darken it down just a little bit. There are no rails. I mean, I could easily tie this back into painting, Nomad Zeke. Oh, Esther Jean's going to make me sing, though, so. There are no rails if you are always questioning the premise. There are no rails. All right. Esther Jean, 24 months sub. Double sub-anniversary, double sub-anniversary, double sub-anniversary. Happy double sub-anniversary. There. I'm okay with deviled eggs being a little devilish. It kind of makes them more appealing. Most people don't want a holy egg. Maybe some people do. Of course. Luca will happily judge all of your coffee preferences. That's funny. That's right, it's Alpaca Day, isn't it? Is he actually on today? Like it seems like the last couple times I've been on Alpaca Day, he has been sick or moving or indisposed. Let's put a little bit of a highlight in here and here and here. Pretty much. Yeah, yeah. Deviled eggs make people eat eggs. This is true. Although I don't really need any help to eat more eggs, so I'm throwing in with the research that say that eggs help your cholesterol rather than hurt it. There's research to both sides. So I will, of course, pick the research that supports my lifestyle. Oh, I see, Quindy. Yeah, if we ever did K-Cups, I mean, it would be reusable probably. But since we have the espresso maker and I just drink tea, there we go. And then we've got some gold around his waist. Now I need to do his sword. I mean, David has the tech company pass, so essentially, since he works for a tech company in Silicon Valley, he goes to work and gets free coffee all day if he wants it. Of any type. Lattes, cappuccinos, sometimes even boozed coffee, because he's spoiled. Because tech companies. So he makes his latte in the morning now here because he takes the puppy out. And you need caffeine to deal with Kiki at, 7:30 a.m. So he takes out the Keeker and has his stuff. Yeah, every once in a while, Google has alcoholic beverages in the cafes in the middle of the day. He assures me they're very weak, but still, it's kind of weird. Oh, hey, look at that raid. I guess there is a Luca. That's insane. So we can stop talking about coffee and everything else now. Oh my God, you had to cut back. It was, yeah, if you have too much coffee, painting is not okay. Too much caffeine does not help your painting. Jitters. Although I did know one person who got more steady with caffeine instead of less. So I guess it is, again, based on the individual. So we're just finishing up our necromancer here, Luca Peeps. And we're about to jump in on doing putty work on our little display base, which I threw together the basis of it, with some cork. And we've got a little skeletal kitty, and if you've never seen the skeletal kitty and you want one, Dark Sword Miniatures sells them. It was originally part of their Jennifer Haley figure. And then I've got a little tombstone that I need to putty in and base around. And then Necromancer goes on the top here. And I also need to putty, essentially I need to putty in a bunch of flagstones and earthwork all over this to make my elements all blend together. So I decided for Halloween, we'd do a Necromancer. So yes. So that's our Necromancer. And I did think about cutting the kitty off the base, but these days, because it's a metal figure, and these days, because figures have little to no lead in them, and they're mostly made of tin, that means they're super hard. I would actually need a saw to cut through this safely, and I just don't, that's too much work. So I tend to cut figures off of bases only when they're plastic. Or resin, I guess. But usually resin figures don't come attached to their bases, so yeah. So yes. Slap chop. No idea what it is. Yeah, we were talking about coffee and caffeine earlier. What is slap chop? I don't even know. You got to tell me. Chocolate moonshine. Link, no. Don't bother because this show doesn't allow links. Will not link. If it is a thing that you cannot talk about in chat without getting banned by Twitch, well then maybe I'll have to look it up later. Although I may forget. My brain cells are at a premium. All right. I'm going to do a little bit of gold right here. Oh, painting technique using contrast paints. I used contrast paints on this. Or I used the Reaper version. So that's a good time to, yeah. I actually did that on this, Nagoya Joe. Like, though I did come in and I did highlight over the top of it. But I started out with it because I wanted to try Reaper's prototype contrast paints heavy washes. So white or light gray prime. Yeah, it's so it's standard Zenith with contrast paints. Yeah. I didn't know that was the term for it, but yeah. That's what I did on this. I did it the purple and the teal. I essentially started this model, and if you go back in the videos on our YouTube, you'll find it. But I started with the Zenith. I then sketched under it to bring it out more because I knew that contrast paints and their derivatives are pretty heavy. So you've got to make the contrast pretty hard. I don't think going like black and gray. I mean, I guess some contrast paints. I've got contrast paints just a few colors, and they seem to be pretty heavy. But some of them are pretty, like the magenta one is really thin. I remember that. So the thinner ones you could go with a gray, but I think like the dark red one I've got, there's no way it would show up if you did gray and black. You'd have to do white and black. But anyway, I did that on this, and then I just touched it up. I just wanted to see how if I liked it or whatever. Yeah, started out as a bit of a joke and created. You know what? Controversy in this hobby. I'm just like, just seriously. People love to make a fuss about silly stuff. It's like, guys, it's painting. Don't get offended. Whatever. Like, seriously. Oh, I see. And then essentially he judged everybody, so everybody judged him back. Yeah. That happens. People can complain if they want to. I just laugh at it. I just laugh about it. It's painting miniatures. Everybody does it their own way, and all ways are right. And nobody's wrong, because it's art. Guess what? But yes, people do love to get their undies in a bundle over stuff, and I do get it. People love to complain. And yes, people absolutely will defend themselves if somebody tries to make fun of the way they paint. So, yeah. I get it. But you aren't going to find any controversy here. I've been through it all. Like, I've seen it all. Like, the dip and flick is what you used to call that, by the way. Back in the day when I was winning Golden Demons. Yeah, so you would just, like, prime your models appropriately and then dip them into Magic Wash, and which was pretty much future floor wax with paint in it. And then you just flick off the excess and put it on the board. Like, that's honestly what it was called. And this is kind of just a version, a slightly dressed up version. Yeah, right. Right, that's the point. That's why I say it's all right. Like, nothing is wrong. Like, when you do that technique, you're doing it for a reason, and as long as it works for you, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm way too rational to be on the internet. I'm way too rational to be on Twitch. Seriously, I'm no fun at all. I don't know why people watch me. Everybody wants the people who are kind of going incendiary over stuff and getting all upset over things and being crazy and funny. And I'm just like, the world. The world is fine. Go ahead, do your thing. As long as you're not screwing up somebody else when you do your thing, you're okay. I don't let myself get upset at the world anymore, because like, why? There's so many things that like are legit to get upset about, and somebody wanting to speed paint their figures is not. And really, yeah, I could get like grouchy at the guy who decided to make fun of that because why? But except he was probably just doing it for views, and so essentially by going viral, you did what he wanted. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see. That's the thing is when I started watching Twitch, I was not drawn to the crazy people. I was drawn to the chill people where I could just relax and hang out and feel kind of at home. And so that's kind of the way I became when I started doing Twitch myself. I'm much more about like actually helping people and giving them information, and less about the crazy. There's so much crazy on the internet already. I really don't need to add to it. I'll leave that to like more energetic people with bigger constitutions for lashback. Me, I just want to hang out and chill with my friends. That's what I want to do. All right, so we're getting, and again, things like this sword hilt, they're just so tiny. You don't need to do real NMM on them. You just need to kind of approximate the things that you would see in NMM and just kind of do spot highlights. Well, sometimes we get funny, but, you know, we don't really get crazy on here. Yeah. Like, I'll totally call out pseudoscience, but even then, I don't really, like, if you came on here trolling with pseudoscience, I would just kind of ignore you. Because, again, you know, believe what you want to believe. Do your own research. Question the premise of life in your own way. It's not my job to tell people what to believe. It's my job to, like, give people painting tips, and if they want to try them, great. And if they don't sound right for you, great. Do it. Oh, beholders, yeah. I have a beholder somewhere around here. Now, on his hilt, I think I will try a bit of an orange and see if it clashes, because we have the orange eyes, and now we've got the yellow tones on the gold. But also I have to question that. Like, why would I, right? So it's by teal on this side, and it's right by the purple on this side. I could go purple with it if I wanted to. Purple's probably the more logical color if I wanted to do pick one of the colors existing. If I went orange, the problem is it'd be bigger than anything else orange on the model, and so it would pull the eye down here because it would be warm and it would be light and it would be fairly saturated. So I probably don't want to do that. I probably want to go just purple with it. Purple will work from the front, and purple works a bit from the back. It's got a little bit of gold here to separate it from the purple here, so we can do that. So I will pop some purple on this. Let's see, we were using Imperial with Wild Violet, as I recall. Oh, that's Monarch. I do not need Monarch. Uh-oh. Is my Imperial around here somewhere? Yeah, it is. It was hiding. Hiding. Imperial Purple, the old classic. Classic purple. And then Wild Violet, which is a new Kickstarter color, which is a lighter purple that is more blue than Runic Purple. Yeah, probably. Yeah, we're all boring here. It's all about painting how you want to paint. If you want to paint fast, because it's, you know, you got stuff to get done, then do it. If you want to paint abysmally slow, like me, do it. Alrighty, so I'm going to underpaint this as I kind of started to do the back here to kind of suggest a texture on it. It's sculpted smooth, but you could use underpainting to essentially create the illusion of a texture. A wrapped texture like you would normally see on a hilt. There, so a little bit of just lines, and I'm going to pop a little bit extra on the top here. Then we go and do that on the front. I am doing a model more of speed paint right now, but not, I'm doing wet blending, not contrast paints or washes. I like the illusion of a fast wet blend a lot better. The result is just more in line with what I want. So that was my Anubis model that I've been working on in my own stream. And I'm enjoying it, so I probably will start doing a lot of wet blend setup for my models from now on. So I'm thinning down my Imperial Purple just a bit, guys. It doesn't have a ton of coverage, so a little bit of water in it. Oh yes, and there's my things. My Patreon is on there. My Twitch is on there. And my YouTubes, which I have a Fundamentals of Mini Painting series, which I really need to get back to now that my crazy is all done. I went through, the last couple months have been crazy. I was sick for a while, a long time, several weeks, more than a month. And then I had a wedding, my own wedding, in fact. So now I'm finally getting back to where I can be productive. So just doing a glaze of the purple, the darker purple over the top there. And then I can bring in my wild violet with a bit of white in it to pick up highlights without being too over the top. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Slap chop. Just weird. I guess. But yeah, unjudged, guys. I'm unjudging myself and unjudging the rest of you. You may paint however you like. I will not call you out on it. Even if I feel like the style you're doing is like, whoa, like not something I would do. But that's the worst you're going to hear from me. Like, honestly, that's the worst you're going to hear from me is, oh, it's not something I would do, but if it works for you. I have too much crap out here on my table. All right. There's my mixing brush. Need a little bit of white. I'm mixing up my wild violet just to be a little lighter so I can use it to touch up these fake textures. And we will use a little bit of water. We want to keep that pretty strong. But yeah, I really like this speed wet blending thing that I've been doing. It's making me get past the crappy part of painting the model fast, which I appreciate. I always feel like washes, like contrast paints, are just like, it's still a wash and I feel the constant need to touch it up. But if I speed blend something and do that organic blend thing that I did on the Anubis, then it still takes touch up, but it's actually enjoyable touch up. I don't know. And maybe it's because I feel like I'm not like rebase coating the model. I'm just highlighting it. So we're going to use this, the wild violet plus a little bit of white to just highlight the little wrap on his hilt there. Yeah, it's all in how much time and how much oomph you've got for painting, right? Usually at the end of a day, I have very little oomph. Which is partially why my painting goes so slow. Because I run out of oomph for it really fast. Alright, so now I'm just going to essentially go over my underpainting a little bit and highlight it. Yeah, if you're a GM painting for a game, all bets are off. Like, if anybody's going to judge you on speed painting, like, they need to just quit and run their own game. As a DM, you do what you need to. There we go, a little bit of highlight. Maybe need a little bit of black to bring out those. I got a little bit of my texture pulled apart. Right. Well, if you like it, then use it. And if you really can't, you know, most people who don't paint aren't going to call you on technique. They don't have the ability to call you on the technique or what you used. Like, if you brought it up to me in person, I would know what you used. But you know what? If it looks good and you're happy with it and you don't have the time to do more or the inclination to do more, then don't. I mean, the one thing the trouble thing about giving feedback on something like that, though, is that most people don't want to hear that. They actually want to hear, oh, it looks great. They don't want me to say, well, use contrast paints here, so, you know, you could do more, but, you know, if it works for you, great. They don't want to hear that. Like, a lot of people just want validation. And That's one thing I usually won't give, is if it looks kind of like crappy or unfinished or speed painted to me, I'm going to say, yeah, well, this is a fast job. Going to be honest about it. But that's like people who actually bring stuff to me for feedback, right? That's not just somebody producing stuff for the table. Like if I was in a game and my DM threw down stuff that was painted with contrast paints, I'd be like, awesome, at least it's painted. Like I would be like, I bow down before you because I never had the energy and time to paint the monsters for my D&D games. There we go, a little bit better. Most of these people don't really want to improve, Gibson. It took me a long time at Paint Club to realize that this was a thing and that it was okay, to be honest. There were people that would come up to me for critique, and I realized very quickly when I was like, oh, if you wanted to, you could try a little bit of lining, or if you wanted to, you could do this. And they would be like, nope. And I would be like, okay, all you want is for me to say it looks great, go, keep going. And that was fine. Like, there are people who just want to paint. They don't want to improve. And that's cool. It's okay. It baffled me at first, like, why would you come to Paint Club? But it was just really the same reason anybody would come to Paint Club, is sense of community, and it gives you time dedicated to painting. And they still wanted to paint. They just wanted to just paint and go, like that was it. And that's fine. Right, Crowley has it. Not everybody's goal is improvement. They just enjoy painting. I mean, I like bowling, and I'm terrible at it. Well, Steph and Mag, I mean, there's want to improve and want to improve. I mean, a lot of us, okay, so let's all get real with the human condition. We all want to improve as long as it's not too much work. We are Kiki, okay? We are Kiki. Kiki loves to chew things until it's too much work. She loves to chase things until it's too much work. She loves to play with things until it's too much work. We are that. The human condition is that. We would love to be a great painter until it's too much work. It's not lazy. It's just, it's not laziness. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's telling yourself bad things about yourself, and don't do that. That's not true. It's just that everybody's got in their head the amount of effort they're willing to expend to accomplish a thing. And sometimes that effort is not that much because honestly, you just don't have the oomph. Or you're not willing to spend that oomph there. You would rather spend that oomph on baking a cake or playing with your kid or your dog or whatever, right? There are other ways, or just sitting outside in the sun. There are other ways you choose to spend your oomph. You're not lazy. It's just that being better at X is not worth that energy penny. Like, don't downside yourself. You improve to a point, Crowley. You get really good at the techniques you are specifically working with. And your brush control, if you're painting small stuff and you're still trying to paint things like eyes and buckles, your brush control will improve. You will get better that way. Right, exactly. And as they get older, they may want to, get better at it. But really, it's a temperament thing with people. Like, I am driven to get better. I love to learn. Like, that's one of my key personality traits. I love to learn. I love to get better because that's learning for me. So when I get really into a thing, I instinctually try to learn how to get better at it. Like that, and that's enjoyable to me, but it's not enjoyable to a lot of people. A lot of people, that just feels like effort, and it's hard after a day at the office, right? You may negative yourself if you wish, but I'm not going to reinforce that. I think people are too negative about themselves. I think they use too many words that just don't help. But that's me, and I'm not an expert. So you may call yourself what you want, but please don't call yourself that on stream because that just hurts me. hurts me to see people do that. I had a dear friend in college and post-college who always was essentially just saying that they were lazy, and it wasn't true, and they like were a very talented individual, but they just, yeah, so it just hurts. Just don't, yeah. Try not to. Try to be gentle with yourself, peeps. If you don't want to do something, that's fair. Even if it's a thing you should do and you don't want to do it, that's fair. Yeah, I'm all about the truth bomb on occasion. Sorry, if you don't want truth bombs, run! Run now! Oh yeah, you got a lot of minis. A lot of minis means you gotta paint fast. Unless you're just gonna like slow down and enjoy it. Either way. Alright, so now we have a kitty. I think I have painted everything on the kitty. Oh, we've got a little purple stuff that I forgot up here. You need to highlight. Just gotta get some of these little purple threads up here highlighted. But yeah, people are too self-deprecating, and that includes me, and it's been a big fight for me to stop self-deprecating myself. To realize that for me, it didn't help. Like, it really wasn't helping. What I really needed to do was to just stop having such high expectations of myself and just do what I could do every day and not judge myself for it. David's really good about that. Like, often I will just be out of energy in the evening, and I will try to make, I will think I have to make supper, I have to make supper, I have to make supper, even though I have no energy for it whatsoever. And I know that if I do, and if I make myself do it, I'm going to be absolutely exhausted and useless for the rest of the evening. And David is very good at looking at me and saying, before you came along, I just would go out to eat all the time. So you don't have to cook if you don't have the energy. He's very good at, reinforcing, because normally I would beat myself up over that and tell myself, all sorts of things about myself. But it's not true. I just don't have the energy. Yeah. Well, not even, it's slow learner, or it's just, in this day and age, a lot of us are kind of drained a lot, right? There's a lot of introverts out there that just come home from their jobs drained. Or maybe you're not an introvert, but you just don't like your job that much, or it requires a lot from you, and you just can't do it. Or you don't sleep real well, like, seriously. Yeah, and some people will tell you that, it's not laziness, it's efficiency. You just don't want to, you are Kiki. You don't see why you should spend a lot of energy on something unless it really matters to you. It's hard to get away from that, Gibson. When people tell you a thing all the time when you're a kid, there was a time in my life when I was told I was stupid a lot. When I was a kid. And the only thing that probably saved me was the fact that I was, one, stubborn and willful as a child, and also I knew I wasn't stupid. But if I had been less sure of myself on that, then that might have had a severe, repercussion on me. So yeah, it's just a fight. It's always a fight. You just gotta, but the thing you can do is not repeat it, right? It's up to you. It's up to you. It's your life. Do it the way you want to do it. I just like to see my friends, having positive and, cool lives that they enjoy. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. I used to do that when I was single, Pendrake. I would do a steamer every once in a while. But if I'm going to cook for David, I'm going to cook. So we have several lower energy dinners that we do. And he also will jump in and he'll cook, but often we need to have something, like, at least we need to have meat thawed beforehand, right? But no, if I'm going to cook, I'm going to cook. I've been wanting to make chili, but it's just a lot of work because I need to roast the veggies and I need to make the corn muffins, which is a whole separate dish and all that kind of thing. I just don't have as much energy. So I just have to be honest when I don't have the energy. It's not like we can't walk over to Safeway and just get, chicken fingers or something. However, you'll find that with the whole ready-made dinners thing, my dietary restrictions do play a part in what I can and can't have. I prefer sautéing veggies, so hot dog night, yeah, good. Well, yeah, it is, Crowley. I like to roast the peppers, so because I like the flavor. I could just chop it all up. I thought about that. I thought about just chopping it all up and throwing it in the pot. But the thing is, I enjoy cooking when I have the energy. Yeah, I love that's part of it right there, Kirst. I roast poblanos, Anaheims, jalapenos, and red bell pepper because I love roasted red bell pepper. And I find that I like the flavor that brings to the chili. Yeah. That's actually what I do, Thormel. I'm making like putting a pound of venison and a pound of beef into the chili, and then it'll be at least 3 meals for us. Yeah, I'm gonna roast them and peel the skins because I don't like the skins texture in the chili too. So. Especially with the poblano. I put the poblano in there for color because it stays that nice green. So it really, it doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it's in there. But it's got a really tight, it's got a really harsh skin. So yeah, and the smell of them in the oven is fantastic too. All right, but it takes energy. It takes energy. So I essentially have to, if I'm going to do this, I have to not do that and things like that. That's just the way life is. And it's actually I've been a lot happier since I just allowed that to happen and stopped fighting to get so many things done every day. Because I'm a super productive person normally. Yeah, I have, I discovered that at the Whole Paycheck, i.e. Whole Foods, but at the Whole Paycheck here in Mountain View, they have fresh ground venison. Yes. But yeah, I love venison chili. I always do it half and half, but... Oh, sorry, Wooloo. I missed it. Wait. Let me find it. Let me go back up. Looking for Woo. Where are you? There you are. Oh, yeah. Sure, Wooloo. Yes. You haven't asked the question yet. Okay, cool. Yeah, now keep in mind when you ask, and I'll actually, if you tell me what kind of palette you use, that's going to be helpful. Because I use a well, which not a lot of people do these days. It seems like there's a lot of wet palette, but I do use wet palette, and I can answer a question. Yeah, so go ahead and shoot while I kind of get my stuff together. I want to start working on puttying on this base. And I do have a half an hour to do it, so I'm going to do that. So go ahead and shoot. I'm going to put Kitty. Kitty is pretty much ready for his big base cameo. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, I don't normally buy like store-bought like game, but I'm so happy when I can find it like not frozen. Although actually the New Zealand venison is pretty good. But yeah, the frozen stuff, but yeah, I was so happy to see like local. Yes. Yeah, it's parchment, I think. I'm not sure if it might be. I mean, parchment is used for sketching and it's used for cooking and all that stuff. Yeah. Yes, I have that. I have that palette. In fact, it's in the other room. One thing you will notice is that Reaper paints are more fluid than other paint lines. And that's on purpose. It's because we use different set of bases. Because I want a paint that will thin easily to a consistency that you need, not one that's I'm gonna have to load a crap ton of water in it all the time to make it work for me for layering and stuff. Yeah, Wooloo, that's why I use Wild Palette. Okay, so here's the deal. Super thinned paints, like glazing or fine layering with lighter colors, are really difficult to get on the wet palette until you have a ton of experience. Some people seem to take to the wet palette fast, and maybe they get there faster than others. Ooh, hummingbird. Oh, sorry, squirrel. Maybe they get there faster than others. But my husband, David Diamondstone, he's a crystal brush winner. He's like a top level like painter. He uses the wet palette. He has, even him, with years of wet palette experience, he doesn't do smooth. Like, he doesn't do, like, glazing he can do, but I don't know that he does it, like, he doesn't use it a lot because it's hard to do on the wet palette. And getting smooth layering is right out. So I know there are people who can do it, but people like Kirill, Knave, and myself, if I have to do layering, I'm going to go with the well palette because I can thin the paint to the point that I need it, and it's going to stay that consistency while I'm using it. While with the wet palette, the water is always going to be wicking back and forth. Like, depending on how much water is in your sponge, if it's really full, it's going to be wicking up into your paint. If it's really dry, it's going to be wicking down. And the minute you mix a thin consistency on the wet palette, it's gonna change. You have to mix every brush full. Yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, I switched it out for, I see. But no, this is a palette thing. This is absolutely a wet palette thing versus well palette thing. So here, there's no absorption. And if I build my paint puddles thick enough, like if I put enough drops in, the surface area of the paint isn't going to evaporate fast enough to really affect my paint for like half an hour. Maybe more if it's a cold, damp environment. And so I can work with my paint consistency. I can get it to the layering consistency, and then I can just sit there and work with it on the model for 20 minutes, half an hour before I have to add more water. If I try to do that on a wet palette, I have to mix every brush full, and even as I'm mixing it, water is getting wicked out of my mix down through the paper. Like, I can watch it happen. So I feel like the wet palette is great for artistry, for quick mixing, for quick blending, for faster painting. That's like the wet palette thing. But if I want fine, like good layering, or I want glazes, a lot of glazes, I'm going to use the well every time because it's more consistent. And what I usually tell people is use both. Get one of these palettes, and this is a ceramic palette, but it's much smaller wells than the big flower-shaped ones that you see. It's the wells are about as big as my thumb. And what this means is I can use just a few drops of paint and a few drops of water, and it stays wet for a while. You do need to use more than one drop of paint, though. You need to use like 6 to 8 drops of fluid to keep it that. But then it'll stay the same consistency for a while. So if you start out with the well, then you can essentially work with ratios, right? You can do 4 drops of paint to 6 drops of water. You can do, 3 to 1. You can do 2 to 1. You can do 1 to 1. And what happens then as you work with that is you can get really used to paint consistency. And then sometimes you can transfer that to the wet palette. But I find the wet palette to be frustrating. Yes, exactly. It's the water that's getting absorbed, actually. The paint itself, the solids in the paint won't go through to your sponge, usually, unless they're ultra fine. But that's why you don't see stains on your sponge. But the water in the paint, when you're trying to mix a glaze, absolutely, instantly just goes out. Like, I will always, because, when you're mixing a glaze, you want the glaze to be like that. That's the glaze. But if I did this and then suddenly all this water slurped down through my sponge, all I'd be left with is that original black. maybe with a little bit of more water in it, right? Because it's still a wet palette. So that's what's happening to you with the wet palette. That's the downside of the wet palette. Can some people still mix glazes? Yeah, they can. Sure. If you have a lot of water in your brush and you pick up just a little paint and mix it, you probably can figure out a way to finesse good glazes. But most of the people I know, like Sergio, he glazes with his airbrush. He doesn't do it with paint from his wet palette. So, or at least that's what he like, the type of thing he presented to us when we took his class. I think it's time to actually glue in little Kitty. So I'm going to go get my glue because I think I left it in the other room, and then I'll be back to talk more about this. 1 second, guys. So my question for glazes, you want to add water until the paint gathers into little drops on the palette. Okay, I see. So I see what people are doing then. All right, so that says to me that they're using a thicker parchment maybe. You can get water droplets to stand up on your wet palette. It's usually not desirable. You may need to put it on a drier piece of the parchment. Like, honestly, on occasion, I just paint on dry parchment because I can actually add water to it. But yeah, so you've got to, essentially what that tells me is you've got to finesse it to get it to work. If it were me, okay, so if you want to try that, then essentially keep a pretty dry palette or keep an extra piece of parchment paper that's not like touching the wet surface and put a drop of water on that, mix a little bit of paint into it, and just use that. It'll take a while before, like honestly, if the paper's not wet both sides, I don't think it's going to wick through. I usually just fold my parchment in two and just use the top side, and I'll put a drop of water on there and mix it up. You could do that. Just use essentially a dry piece of parchment paper as a regular palette. Will the paint stay good for a long time? No, it's going to dry right away, pretty much. But if you don't need it for a long time, if you're just using a spot glaze, you don't need this well to be full of glaze. So now for layering, good luck on that one. Again, you probably could use paper, just the paper, and try to mix the right consistency. But there it's going to get you, because there the drying time is going to right away change the paint consistency because you're mixing on a flat surface. Thanks, Corsair. But yeah, in order for paint to bead up on your wet palette, there has to be surface tension. And if your paper is well saturated, you aren't going to get that surface tension. You're only generally going to get it when the paper is drier. Like, that's why when you start, you're going to see, like when you set up your wet palette, I usually like saturate one side and then I flip it over, and I'll always have some drops of water that are sitting on top of the wet palette. But as I work, those tend to absorb slowly. So oh, good, Kerniko. Yeah, I was just about to glue Kitty, tiny skeletal Kitty down. Yeah, I mean, get one with smaller wells if you can. Are you in the US or Europe? Or somewhere else? If you're in the US, Cheap Joe's Art Supplies has this porcelain palette that I use. It's a 28 well. I'm going to glue down Kitty. I just put a bunch of Zap-A-Gap down. Europe, hey guys, yeah. Do you guys remember where to order my type of palette in Europe? Can anybody help him? I know there's a place that has palettes that are similar to mine with the smaller wells, but I can't remember in Europe where to go for that. Just on Amazon UK. So what you really want, yeah, what you really do want though is a porcelain palette. that was smaller wells. So yeah, a 12 well. No, you don't want the big round flower one. The wells are too big. I used one of those for ages, but I had to put so much paint in it to keep it the right consistency. It just wasn't worth it. Okay, good. Yeah, try to, if you can, like, yeah, get one with smaller wells. Like I said, these wells are about the size of my thumb, and they're perfect for miniature painting, in my opinion. So yeah, so try that. Oh, Jack Richardson, that's it. Thanks, Crows. 21 well porcelain, awesome. So there we go. So if you can find those brands, you can find that brand rather. Great. So yeah, so Kitty is ready, Kuroniko, to go on to the base. And so actually, well, I don't want to take Kitty off yet because I've got a lot of putty work to do. So I just stuck little Kitty on, and I'm debating whether I want to chop off the foot on this and just pin it into this, or if I just want to keep it. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, it's probably going to be better if I can chop it off and pin it. But I think my clippers are also in the other room because, of course, I'm not prepared for this. Jackson Art Supply in the UK sells a 28 well palette. Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Hold on. I'm going to go and get my clippers. All right. Clippers gotten. But yeah, hopefully that helps you. But yeah, it definitely is. It is a scientific thing. Like it is like entirely. It's not you. It's the palette. Ah. Slumping it on the phone. Oh no. Oh no. It's all right. So when you've got resin or plastic, obviously removing bases is very easy. You just use your side cutters. Bloop. Bloop. And then I can either keep this extra height or I can cut off the bottom. Okay, so most, that's a good question. That's a good question. Because essentially if you've got a lot of chalk in your water, it's less acidic and it's more basic. Most of the time, that's not going to affect most paints. I'm going to say that, woo. Although if you do have a lot of minerals in your water, that is the one time I would say using distilled or filtered water would work. I had a friend who lived in Manhattan who painted, and he always used distilled or bottled water for his painting because so many of the pipes in his building were like old metal pipes, and he found that it did have an effect. All the heavy metals did have an effect on his paint, or he felt it did. It is an undead kitty. No, it is not. I looked for an undead kitty from Reaper, and I did not find one, and so I'm using Dark Sword. So y'all can just like, yell at me for not using a Reaper part there. But I decided to do it anyway, because I like the undead kitty. Oh, yeah. No, it's, some minerals do affect paint. Like, paint has, pH is really important for paint. Woo! I'm the one who created the Reaper paint line, by the way. So, yeah, paint chemistry. Woo! Yeah. But, usually, unless your paint starts separating out, you're okay. So, what would happen if your chalky water was having too much of an effect on your paint would be you would start to notice precipitation action. So your paint would start to look kind of cottage cheesy. It wouldn't stay smooth. It would start to kind of separate, just like frozen paint does. And if you're not seeing that, then your chalky water isn't affecting anything. Because that's what happens when your paint gets too basic. And usually the fix is to add acid. to essentially acidify the pH. But once something's out of solution, that doesn't always work. So yeah, so in my opinion, if your paint is staying together, you don't have a problem with your chalky water, because chalk is definitely like something I would think that would slide it more basic, less acidic. All right, so now I think I'm going to cut it off. And that's really easy, again, with side cutters. And I'm just going to trim it a little bit. Ooh, that flew. Glad the puppy wasn't around. I might have put an eye out. Ooh, and I chipped it. Well, that's actually okay, because it's a ruined tombstone. So what I'm going to do is pin it, and then I'm going to putty around it. Pin vise, wire. Now, pinning into cork can be a bit of an annoyance because cork is really soft. So if you're just pinning just into the cork, you may find that your wire is wobbly and it doesn't really hold things up. Yeah, well, you would be right in some circumstances, Woo. Like I said, a lot of heavy metals in the water might actually affect paint. And paint is very sensitive to pH, at least it used to be. I should say that today's paint is made to work pretty well with a variety. It has a wider spread of pHs it can tolerate. And that's why you see less interaction problems. Like back in the old days, you would try to use one company's product with another company, and sometimes you would get some interactions. These days, you don't really see that. And I think that's because most modern craft hobby companies are working with the same kind of range of products, and that like everything has gotten a little bit more standardized. I'm going to drill up into the middle of our tombstone here. And so you're not coming up with like way back at the start of Master Series, I remember somebody saying that golden matte medium or golden sealer didn't work well with MSP, or golden flow improver. I don't remember. There was a golden product that wasn't working that would essentially screw up the paint. Nowadays, that's no longer true. It hasn't been true for years. So I think that as companies just kind of standardize what they're using, everything is working at around the same pH, and so you don't see that kind of thing. But pH is important. Until I started making paint, I didn't realize how important pH was. Oh, it's almost certainly the wet palette. If you're trying to build bubbles on top of your paper, like I said, less might be better if you're trying to build up that. Or you could just get a well palette and work with both. I mean, Kirill Kaneva is one of the best painters in the world, and he uses both palettes. Like, I'd put him in top 3 best painters in the world easy. So it's not like you have to like be in the camp of wet palette or the camp of well palette. You can use both. You're fine. And well palettes tend to be cheap. Like, even the porcelain ones are not terribly expensive. And they're very good for when you want to do, like, layering that's not as texture intensive, if you're trying to do smoother skin or whatever, or just smoother surfaces, or you want to build glaze and you're glazing a larger model, all that kind of thing. They verified you still have a brain. I see. You are making jokes. I was too, Kariniko. I was on first name terms with the staff when I was going through all my surgeries. It's actually kind of nice. It's like you get to be friends with your medical professionals. And if you must go through that stuff. All right, so we have a pin, and now we've got some wire. Right. Yeah, when you have to... Well, then you might think about, like, reading up about color mixing. That's what my now husband did. He started mini painting when he was in college, and he had very little money. So he pretty much learned to mix paints from a very limited selection of colors, because he's like, if I do that, I can buy more models. Oh, I need more drill. Problem with this is it's wanting to close up a bit. Hey, Valandar, thanks for the raid. You again don't fall asleep. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Yeah, make it work however you can make it work. Like I said, you could even use like some parchment paper, fold it over, and not just use it like a palette, and mix glazes on that. Won't work as good for layering. I don't know. I just, layering is like what I used for the longest time. I used layering for everything. And I'm somewhat biased in believing that the Well palette is really the best palette for layering. But again, it depends on if you want to leave texture or if you want smooth. There we go. That's better. Sweet. All right, I want to get my glue and set my pin. Yeah, have fun, Crowley. Yeah, porcelain Well palette. If you want to clean it, yes, you want porcelain. I just pretty much go and I wash it either right away after painting while the paint is still soft and not fully set, or I will soak it, and usually with a little bit of dish soap in there or a little bit of like spray cleaner like Simple Green. There we go. And then I'll just use a green scrubby pad and it'll come right out. Scrubbing it is not very labor intensive. It's pretty easy. Yeah, for sure, Woo. Well, we're all about the technique stuff here. And I will always try to explain to you why. Like with the surface tension thing and just the way that the science works. I try to come at it from that direction. So if you have questions, ever, come on over here. I'm going to drill. So one thing you can do, I mentioned that cork is really soft, guys. So pinning through it can be, if you pin it shallow, it's going to wobble because this is spongy. So what I often do is pin all the way through the plastic. And so I'm going to want a longer pin here. And I'm going to want to cut it probably right about there so that it will go through the plastic. And the plastic then will kind of hold it. So I'm going to know where the bottom is. There we go. I'm going to cut it slightly up from that. Boop. There. Perfect. Oh, I could never get plastic ones free. Free of paint. Like I just gave up. Yeah, I find the green scrubby saves my fingernails personally. So my fingernails tend to break. All right, so then we had to position our tombstone. I know I want it to sit back a bit, and I don't have to worry about a big footprint anymore. And I don't mind the broken edge. The broken edge is actually pretty cool. And considering that I've got that big crack going through there, this might actually work with my thing. I think I want it, if I'm kind of sighting it from above here, and I'll be able to kind of throw it or twist it around. So I'm going to press it down. I'll leave a little dent in the cork. That way I know exactly where I need to drill. That's a nice thing about cork. And drilling through cork is like nothing. Like it'll just go. It'll just push through almost. But I still want to drill because I don't want the hole to close up. I want to drill straight down until I hit the plastic. And then I'm going to keep going. Until I go through the plastic. As you can see. There's my drill. Back it out gently. Don't want to break it off. These drills are small. There. Okay. Dry fit it. And see if it's right. And this is where I'm going to run into problems if I can't find the hole down below. Because sometimes... yeah, because there's so much looseness, it's hard to find the hole that I drilled. And if I really can't find it, then I might have to do a different, something different. One thing I can do is try to press it up from here. Oh, and we bent the pin. Yep, so bending the pin, bend it back gently. So that tells me that I should not persist in trying to get it down. No, I wouldn't use a magnet. I don't know if it would work with, does it even work with brass? I don't remember if brass is magnetable. I didn't think don't use steel pins, so. But no, I don't know that that would even work. You'd have to have such a fine magnet. I don't think you could pull it. Oh, right. We've got, no, it's brass. I do not use paper clips because I don't want to kill my clippers. So, all right. So next thing to do is just to cut it off and just use the cork and put extra glue down below so that essentially I can solidify the cork around it. So we'll try that again. Need to look. I actually wanted to put it in here so that it looks like it's kind of breaking off, like right where the crack is. All right, so we have, I believe, Alpaca Nation coming in, right? Quindy, do I have to get my button gear and, I'm going to rip off more of this. Get my button gear and get off the air. Is there a Luca? We do. We have a Luca. All right. Well, then, I'm going to stop mangling my base for a bit, although I did manage to rip that up and kill that part. So I will be able to make it look like the tombstone actually crumbled with the rest of the earth, which is cool. We've got our tombstone set up, and my kitty will... I'm going to twist him off. Kitty will sit up on top with little kitty. Ta-da! Here, we'll pull back up. Da-da-da. Kitty and tiny kitty. And there we are. So we will continue puttying in everything and making it. I may, actually, I'm not sure I like the tombstone right there. I may move it. But anyway, we will resume this at some future time. Tomorrow, I am off. On Friday, we will be working on our Ghost Walker. She is, she's getting there. She's getting there. I want to highlight her scan a bit more. I want to finish the gold NMM on these areas, and I need to finish the steel on the back. And then we've got to decide if we're going to actually do something else on the blue back here, or we're just going to leave it. So yeah, there we go. And thanks for coming by, everybody. And nice to meet you. Hopefully we'll see you around. I hope you figure out a way to make your palette work. All right, we're going to go. And you guys, I'm handing you over to Luca. Have a good day. Bye-bye.